destroyed on the spot. Everybody, it was public occasion, and that of course started a new beginning in us. But you could never make peace, not me, nor not anybody else, if the parties don't want it. And this again was a good example that I tried to make the parties in Helsinki to meet without me from the beginning. After the first meeting I said, if you want to meet, and this young businessman who had brought the parties to Finland, they accepted him to be there. He spoke Indonesian fluently, and he was accepted by both parties, so we managed to get them to start talking, and that produced finally the end result. It was also an exercise where you learn very quickly that the advisors who are advising this time the Free Aceh movement are sometimes holier than the Pope. And that's what I have learned from these different peace missions, that very often the advisors are, like sometimes also the immigrant communities, are much tougher on the issues than the people who actually face the music on the ground. I have seen that in so many situations. So I had to challenge some of them. For instance, when we agreed that military should have no functions in the law and order field, that police should take care of those, then the issue came up, how many military can be in Aceh? And I told the advisors of GAM that it's none of your business and none of mine. As long as they stick to the functions, which is the external defense, it's not your business or mine to decide how many people are required. And finally, I succeeded in this argumentation, and Free Aceh movement accepted. I then told them later on to the Free Aceh movement representatives, I'm sorry that I had to be so rough with your advisor. He said, sir, it's not your problem, he's ours. But perhaps the lesson I would learn is that the non-governmental organization like ours, Crisis Management Initiative, had the great advantage that we were not responsible to anybody except ourselves and to the parties. I could draw from the Ministry for Foreign Affairs 2 advisors to my team. I could call the commander of the armed forces and get a general to be my military advisor. I could call to Javier Solana and say, Javier, now I'm dropping EU's name here. He said, keep on dropping, but I'm not deciding. You have to convince the member states. I said, fine, I'll do that for you. But we could get everybody together, find a formula that has held so far, and EU is supposed to leave Aceh on the 15th of December this year, after the first elections are held, less than a week before that. But there will be another monitoring mission from EU government. I like particularly the idea that ASEAN and EU would work together. It was actually the first time, and it has worked extremely well. I have met those from the ASEAN side when I was there in the middle of August this year on the invitation of the government. And you should have seen when 200 people from Aceh, all over Aceh, came to that occasion when we were celebrating 1 year's anniversary of the peace agreement. That was a show of will of the ASEAN, so they wanted the peace to continue. And I was very impressed by the positive role of the different civil society organizations played in that process. And the women's organizations particularly. I spoke to one group. My program was planned in such a manner that I nearly missed the occasion, but I dragged the ministers there to listen to the ladies. I said, it does you very good that you listen to what the ladies have to say. I wish there would be more women actually in the negotiations when we negotiate peace. I have said that in Balkans too, I told the women in Kosovo recently that the reason, I have come to the conclusion that the reason why you are not in the official delegations, neither on the Serbian side or Kosovo side, is that we would make peace much faster. Then, let's go back to Kosovo. I must confess that when Secretary General asked me on the 14th of August on Sunday, when he called me and congratulated on the Aceh agreement which we are signing the following day, he said, your name is mentioned in case of Kosovo. Are you interested? I said, I have to give the same answer to you than to my friends who have been calling me from governments already. If Secretary General asks me, I'm prepared. I have to consider seriously your request. You know that I was involved in the negotiations with the former Prime Minister Chernomyrdin and Deputy Secretary of State Stroh Talcott in spring '99, when we then ended the war and the NATO bombing, and UN started its 7-year stint in Kosovo, administering Kosovo. And I thought that now, when I was asked again, I felt like a schoolboy who had to repeat his class. Because there was actually I was not looking forward to this assignment. But we have a contact group that looks and supports the special envoy. That includes United States, Britain, France, Russia, Russian Federation, Germany, and Italy. And I must say that if that group didn't exist, I would hardly have accepted this assignment, because their role has been absolutely vital. They passed among themselves, before I started in November last year, guiding principles for this Kosovo exercise. And for instance, there it is already said that they don't accept partition of Kosovo. And they also said that none of the parties can stop this process when it starts. They, in London, in a ministerial meeting, said that we have to try to find a solution during this year. We have been in Vienna since the beginning of this year. We have carried out talks, one meeting where we tried to discuss the status. What would be the future status of Kosovo? And contact group members, I had invited them to be present so they could witness it. It's very clear Serbia doesn't want to give independence to Kosovo, and Kosovars will accept nothing except independence. And I think we have to realize here what the history of the Kosovo has been. So little repetition, please. When Milosevic in '89 unconstitutionally took away the autonomy of Kosovo, started the oppressive measures against the Albanians in Kosovo, which then led to the end of the peaceful resistance and armed struggle by the KLA, the military wing there. And then further measures from Milosevic's side. Many people died, many people left Kosovo, and then finally NATO intervened because it was going too far. And then, as I said, we stopped that exercise and UN could start administering the territory. Actually, we don't have anymore in UN system trusteeship system, but Kosovo is like a trusteeship of UN. The best way to describe what the Kosovo is. What I would have hoped in '99, the Security Council would have clearly said, you have 5 years to prepare Kosovo for independence, do it, and do it properly. Establish the institutions, but the Security Council didn't because they didn't agree. So, there are many areas where Kosovars have had nothing to say. Security is one area. There are then other areas where they have been able to develop their institutions. We have been trying to create conditions in Kosovo during these talks that everybody can live more comfortably than they do at the moment in Kosovo. First of all, the majority, 90% that are Albanians, the 5% that are there, originally they were 10%, We have discussed that through decentralization of the administration, so we have discussed the new numbers, seeing how many Serb majority communities there would be, what are the issues they could decide, even issues that they could continue receiving funding from Belgrade for their local government expenditure. We have also discussed the protection of churches, of the Serbian Orthodox Church and the cultural heritage in Kosovo, how they are protected, size of protective zones over there, and the international community's protection of that. We have talked about community rights in Kosovo, and those all will be described later on in the constitution. Economy, what is the share of Kosovo of the debt of Serbia? At the moment it looks like it's somewhere around 1.2 billion altogether. And how will that then be dealt with? If I say a few words about the attitude of the parties, it's not surprising that Pristina has been more forthcoming in these talks, because they are hoping for independence. I always say that if this is where I would like, where the microphone is, I would like both parties to be on these technical issues. We have dragged, and the parties were here when we started, we have dragged with the help of a contact group and international community, Pristina and Albanians here. They have stopped there, and I don't think they will move anymore from there. When it comes to Serbs, they are still here. They have moved very little. As a matter of fact, unfortunately, their attitude has been similar to that which they have shown in their negotiations with the Hague Tribunal. They have not been moving, and the people who are supposed to go to Hague, to the court, are still free foot. I think perhaps there is a rational explanation from Serbian side that when they say that they don't want to keep independence, they don't want to appear to be discussing anything that would somehow make them cooperate in a process that leads possibly to that sort of outcome. The next steps are clear. I have been asked by the contact group, these 6 countries, there are 4 permanent members. China is the only one who is not there, and every time I'm in New York I see the permanent representative of China and brief him. I have been once in Beijing already and explained to the Chinese government that they are very informed. I did the same trip in '99 when the NATO bombed the Chinese embassy in Belgrade, some of you may recall, and few Chinese diplomats died. It was much trickier trip when I had to go and ask them to cooperate. And a few days later, when I had been there for a day and came back to Finland, I received a message from China saying that they will abstain in the Security Council, which was very positive development. Russia's attitude in this whole exercise has been hardening lately. They argue that solution in Kosovo is a precedent for other crisis situations, whether we talk about Transnistria, Abkhazia, or you name it. I have argued that, and so are many others among us, that Kosovo is a sui generis like any other crisis situation. Every crisis have their own history, own particularities, and if you want to solve them through UN system, you have to actually get the agreement of 5 permanent members in the Council. And every one of them can refuse. So you have to have the argumentation every time over and over again. You may be able to use Kosovo as a debating point, but it doesn't carry a day automatically. I have been asked by the contact group to prepare the proposal which should go to the parties first and then in due course to the Security Council. We have started doing that. I presented 2 weeks ago some preliminary views to the contact group members.